Yes, everybody, you know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here at the IrishHotspur, joined by Dave, and this is going to be kind of a mixed stream. We're going to be bringing you kind of the final bits of Harry Kane news. Sorry, I have the stream on my phone there, but we have the final bits of Harry Kane news coming about. And then, two, we also going to kind of just be dissecting what Ange Postecoglou had to say about it. He's continuing, to be kind of pressed about the future of Spurs as well as kind of this Harry Kane deal. Kind of, did he know about it the whole time? Those sort of kind of questions. And then we're going to kind of give a bit of a, how would you put it, a farewell, a memorial kind of goodbye of some kind to our beloved Big H. Of course, Dave was in love with more than just Harry Kane's play. He was in love with his hairline, in love with pretty much everything about the guy. And we're just going to also discuss also the future of Tottenham Hotspur. So a bit of a mixed stream here. But Dave, before we kind of get into it and before we greet everybody in the chat, sorry for showing up a bit late here, everybody. I kind of kept it private and then forgot to unprivate it, so it showed up a bit late. And sorry for starting here late, everyone. But before we get started here, Dave, how are you?
Yeah, Jack. Look, I stayed up last night listening to my sad playlist on Spotify. While watching Harry Kane compilations with tissues by my side. I've got it out of me, and now it's done. It's time to move on. But it's sad nonetheless. I'll never forget what he's done for this club and the memories that he's given me.
And I said that the only person that could be happy in Dave's household right now is actually his missus, because now she's actually just jumped the spot as the number one most loved person, in his life now, you could say. So Harry Kane no longer, is at least in the top tier. Maybe he joins the top 30 of some kind, but no longer at the very, very top in Dave's heart. Let's go to the chat here just quickly and say hello to some of the people. We have Leo and Lego in the house. Come on, you Spurs. Can't wait till this is over. In such a bad mood, Leo and Lego. Probably the first time I've ever cried with a Spurs player leaving this club. The compilations that I had already set myself or saved for myself definitely did that some justice, but it really was, I don't know, it's just first time I've ever cried seeing a player go. You can't really put it much else in any other way. And it's really been, I guess, an honor, it feels like, but I'm still just a bit sore about it. I think probably a week from now, you kind of just still look at it as kind of like, wow, what a privilege to have a guy like that. But right now, it still feels a little sore. But like kind of Dave said, you gotta kind of just pull yourself together at some stage and move on from it. Keith Edwards saying, guys, set your alarm. We'll do better a little bit next time. We'll start in these a little earlier. We're getting moved over to the new system. Big up, truth be told, as well. Good. Now I can move on with my year and have another reason why not to invest in the club. Andrew Seymour says, come on, you Spurs. Let's think it's a new era with just a second. He says, let's think it's a new era with Ange.
He
Sorry.
says, let's think it's a new era with Ange and believe the money will be spent on Ange's rebuild. Never nice seeing the best player leave, and I've seen a few. Hello, all. Big up, Andrew. Look, I'll have my say on whether I think that money will be spent or not. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll wait for it to pop up.
Big up as well to Oliver in the house. Phil P, absolute legend. Jesus, lads. End of an era. Huge love to David Jack. Big love to you, Phil P. Just a girl who loves Spurs. Big up to you, Kate. Hopefully you're keeping well. Keith Edwards as well. Lisa's in here. Good to see you, Lisa. Morning, Dave and Jack. Big ups for streaming at this tough time. Yeah, I guess we just sort of said to each other, just get it over with, really. As might as well
Mm.
just have this stream that we already had prepared and have our vegetables here and say our goodbyes to Harry Kane, as well as just have some difficult conversations about the future and what Ange had to say and whatnot. Big up to John Stokes celebrating 18 months as a Flat Cap member. Says big up Dave and Jack, best Spurs
Big up,
show
John.
on YouTube. Big up to you, John Stokes, my man, and
Thank you,
thank you
my
for your
man.
18 months of service to us. And also as well, I will be wearing the John Stokes kit on Sunday. Everybody against Brentford. Big up to you, my man. We have Joe as well in the house. Big up to you, Joe. Good to see you as well, Terry Betts. Hopefully you're keeping well, Terry Betts. Jim is in the house too, alongside Kate. Good to see you, Jim. Hopefully you're keeping well, my friend. We also have as well Dirty Sanchez. Faye is in here. Mud FC. And as well as Mia celebrating 10 months as a fan show member. Big up
Big
to
up,
you,
Mia.
Mia. She says, big up, guys. Dave, sorry, man. I felt bad for you when I heard we move on though through a new era in Ange we trust. Hashtag in Ange we trust. Cois. Extra cois. Maybe you need two Lucases for that one, probably Mia. But um, I feel like Dave, how many condolences texts did you get? Did you get a lot of condolence calls, condolence texts? As if almost you had lost somebody like in real life. Did you get a real condolence text of from a
Look,
lot of people?
funny enough, Jack, my ma, who doesn't follow any Spurs news whatsoever, rang me straight away as soon as it broke. Checking in on me, making sure I was okay. Followed by my dad, my sisters. Of course, my girlfriend was here consoling me. I've got many of texts and phone calls throughout the day, throughout the night, early hours of the morning. Look, it is what it is, Jack. I've been here before with Carrick, Moderich, Bale, Berbatov. This time
Hmm.
being different, we shouldn't be in this situation, but we move forward. To what extent? To what? I get the club will always sort of survive and it will always push forward, but what's the ambition? How much push forward and are we really going to do? That's what I question. But look, hopefully the football and the results can prove me wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Big up to Bobby Andrews in the house as well. He says the timing of this is criminal, gents. Although the deal is right, so he doesn't go on a free 2 days before a first game is absolutely pathetic. Money all has to go into the team, though. If it isn't, I will be in a tantrum. Big up to you. And also, David is in the house. He says, at least I'm hopeful. Ange came out of his planning, didn't have Kane in to begin with. Yeah, I guess he sort of knew the whole time and sort of kept it quite secret potentially. Leslie Crawford, Adams deal is off even after passing medical at 20 million pounds. We could do a lot worse. 2J's in the house saying, I think we beat Brentford. I think when we beat Brentford, we'll feel a lot better. 2J, we'll definitely need that positivity. We'll definitely need somebody to get behind the team alongside yourself. Yes,
While
Dave.
while you're on 2J Jacko, he sent in a super chat on the podcast earlier on we missed, and I just want to bring it up and we'll have a discussion on it now. He said, amazing that Dyer, Sanchez, Tanganga, and Session are still there, and we sold Kane. Fantastic business. Levy, the bald uh, twat, really dared to do. I mean, look, 2J, that's the first thing that came into my mind amongst all the overwhelming thoughts and everything else. The first thing that started flying off of my radar is the fact that Dyer, Davies, Sanchez have all outlasted Toby, Jan, Walker, Rose, Wanyama, Dembele, Ericsson. I'll throw Ali in there. Now Harry Kane. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling. But that just represents the times we're in at this football club that the best players walk away.
It just when you think of the conversations we had post Conte, and I feel like there were a lot of people that were, of course, happy to see Conte go, but I think we all found this sort of solace in thinking that yes, we need at least two defenders coming in this summer. We also need a lot of outgoings to happen, get this deadwood away from us that have caused us far too much pain, and have also probably hindered a lot of managers as well in their sort of progress too. And I feel like everybody kind of agreed on that, regardless of where they were sort of on sort of their feeling on Conte and the squad and everything, right? And just feels like Spurs haven't done really those two things yet, and that's where I think some of us do feel still a bit sort of angered by this summer. 2J is that we sort of thought Dyer, Sanchez, the whole lot of Deadwood that have been given so many
Right.
chances here would be some of the first to go, or at least by this stage we would be pretty sure that they have no future here and that they are going to be out of this club. And it's crazy to think
Thing
that
is,
Pierre
Jack,
Pierre Hoiberg and Kane are actually more likely, and one of them's already gone. Are some of our two most consistent players over the last few seasons are headed out over these guys. These guys somehow can survive like a nuclear war. It feels like these guys.
but these guys are a massive part of the reason why our best players are walking away from this football club.
Mhm.
They're not the only reason, but they're a big part of it, especially on the football pitch. And
Mm.
it's just absolutely unbelievable that they're still here. And this is what I've warned all along about the urgency of getting rid of some of them idiots that are just not good enough to be at this football club. Because now we're in a situation which I've been warned about for quite some time, where you will start seeing your best players leave, and these will be the guys that you will be left with. So hopefully now everyone understands why I've been on these guys' cases, why I've been on Tottenham's cases about getting rid of these guys. But unfortunately, my fears have become reality.
Big up to you too, Jay. Top man. Good to see you as well. Thanks for listening to the podcast as well earlier. Good to see you, Jaden. He says, big up, lads. I see Spurs fans really upset about this. We've seen big players leave this club before. Kane's gone. We can't dwell on that time to focus on our club succeeding. I'm glad this Kane saga is finally over. I could see why a lot of Spurs
Yeah.
fans feel like the saga is finally over. There is some sort of now we've gotten clarity, right? And it's sad that it's actually come more from Ange, right? And some of his quotes that he's just given to Jaden, like we're being given more of a bit of a clarity on the situation, on the story, how this sort of summer went and everything. And it is nice in that sense. But I also just feel like I'm just still a little bit, how would you say, tender, Dave? I'm a little tender still because
Mm,
just Harry Kane was somebody that I thought at one stage I would see win some type of trophy, whether it be a Carabao, a League Cup, an FA Cup, challenging maybe in another final still would have been, I think, huge for us with Harry. Give him at least that chance to try to, do it again and try to win it over. And I don't know. It's just been a real letdown, it feels like. And
yeah,
that's what I start to think about. It's just, I still feel a little tender about it. I think a week from now, Jaden, maybe I'm just not as good at, about recovering from it as you are. But a week from now, I think I'll probably be thinking more about it, just in terms of the
mm,
future and just how good, Harry Kane made me feel at the end of the day. Big up to you, though, my man.
big up.
Slow Jamrod, good to see you as well. Kate celebrating 1 month as a member. Big up, Dave. Thinking of you. She says, thinking of you at this sad time. Think of it as a new and exciting chapter, gents. And big up to you, Kate. And also, hopefully, you've recovered, I believe, as well from the COVID too. And hopefully, Jim was taking good care of you. I bet he was. I bet he was a good nurse. But Dave, I mean, I guess we'll get into it later, kind of moving on to the new chapter. But, another person like Kate, just thinking of you during this sad time because, a lot of people are like yourself, Harry Kane, probably their number one love, their number one, kind of player at the club. And
Mm,
it's sad always to see your favorite player go. And in fact, it was probably the greatest, even overall player I think I'll ever even see play for Spurs in general, at least in my lifetime. And he's definitely been the best player I've seen in my lifetime. And that was definitely
yeah,
a reality check for me, for sure. Big up to you, Kate.
yeah, big up, Kate. Yeah, look, it's a new era for sure. But let's be real about this. This can go 50-50. This can go either way. This can really take off and work, or else it can crumble before it's even got started. And with Tottenham, there never ever seems to be any in between. So it is a gamble. We're dicing with it. It could go either way. Look, I also see a lot of people with this, get behind Ange and Ange we trust. I started trusting Ange and getting behind Ange before most people in this fan base even knew who he was. I've watched Ange Postecoglou at Celtic. I'm fully behind Ange Postecoglou. I just fear that mistakes that we've made in the transfer window, which came back to haunt Jose, which came back to haunt Conte, could come back to haunt Ange Postecoglou. And I really do not want him to fail because he plays the football that excites Spurs fans.
Yeah, sorry. And sorry about that, everybody. Just turned Dave up for you guys. Hopefully you can hear him a bit better. Definitely the time when, Dave certainly maybe feels like myself a bit more tender about it. So, it's hard to really even speak up about, as loud and as
I just
proud
don't
as we
want
want
people
to
to
be.
get Yeah, Jack, I just don't want people to get confused that I'm not behind Ange or this or that. I'm just
Yeah.
pointing out I was behind Ange, but probably second after Paul in the Spurs fan base. So let's not get
Mhm.
that mixed up. I loved Kane. I recognise the quality in what he's done for this club, and I fear that we might miss it this season. That's all. But behind Ange, 100% before anybody else. Bar
Mm.
Paul.
And then as well, we have Hennessy in the house, came in here to support Dave. Big up to you, Hennessy.
Big
Good to
up,
see you in the
Hennessy.
house. Nathan Rollins as well. Big up to you, my friend. And he says, big up, boys. Well, it's happened. I'm absolutely devastated, but what it is. We can't dwell on it. We have to move on. Big up to you, Nathan. And also thank you
Yeah,
for
big up.
becoming a member recently. We also have William Pretty in the house. Good to see him, William Pretty. Hopefully you're keeping well. Zoe is in here and she says, big up, boys. Tyler Adams, yes, please. She also says with a super chat yesterday, Dave wearing black, today white for the rebirth. I mean,
Uh,
it's I don't know. Will there be a Harry Kane? What would you call resurrection of some kind? Maybe at some stage, 4 years down the road, if there's a buyback clause, or who's to say? Maybe Jamie Donnelly is a Harry Kane resurrection, or somebody from the academy one day becomes the next
yeah.
big H. But Zoe, absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Dave, I think you're still in mourning. You probably now feel like you should switch to a black sweatshirt.
No, look, Jack, being honest, I was up till 5 o'clock this morning. It took me that long to sort of get over it. But look, at the end of the day, we've got to move forward. Ange Postecoglou, we never stop. But it's still not going to stop me from airing my concerns about the predicament we find ourselves in. Usually, I would argue that I'm ahead of the times or ahead of the problems, like I was on the centre back issue last summer. Then everyone 3 months later was screaming about centre backs, even though they ridiculed me in the summer, telling me to get off their backs, this, that, and the other. So I'm fully behind it. I'm over the Kane situation, although still a bit angry about how it's played out, and I'll air them. But I'm still going to air my concerns going forward.
Definitely. Big up to you, Zoe.
Big up, Zoe.
Appreciate that. Big up. Appreciate the support as well. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon as well. Tony Austin in here. Big up to you. He says, "Just want my club to settle down now." I absolutely agree with that. I
Yeah.
think we can all agree with that. Feels like it's just been a whirlwind and just all the wrong type of news, not the good type of news that you want to hear. It's just been everything from Paratici being arrested to us losing to managers that have been arrested. In the case of Dinamo Zagreb, I feel like you could just write honestly a pretty insane novel of the last 4 years alone of what's been happening at this football club. Big up to you, Tony Austin. Hopefully you're keeping well. We also have P Dubs in the house, Rhode Island's finest. Hopefully you've been using the hot tub. Hopefully you used the hot tub last night to soak in maybe some of the tears. Big
Big
up
up
to you,
P
P
Dubs.
Dubs. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. We also have Georgie Hill, and he says, "Big up yourselves, you legends. Grieved over Kane yesterday. Today we move on again, falling for that big Aussie more and more every day. Says all the right words. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Harris Army. Come on, you Flat Cap Army." George, absolutely love you. Hopefully, you're keeping well this
Big
summer,
up
my
Georgie.
man. And I think Ange honestly has had probably the biggest dumpster or kind of like baptism of fire, really, that you could really give a manager in a summer. He's just had everything, I would say, not go his way, but also too, it's been pretty much out of his control. I think the Kane situation, for the most part, is out of his control, and he's had to
Mm,
basically be the spokesperson for the club because Levy doesn't really want to do it. They don't want to provide any clarity. Kane didn't much provide any clarity, but I feel like it's harsh to really say that it's all on Kane to do it
mm,
too. It needed to be in some way, I think, more done by the club. They were absolutely silent about it, and yeah, I feel bad for Ange, but I think he's actually covered himself, pretty well in all of this. And I think it just shows that he speaks very well, he communicates very well. And that's what we want here at this club instead of kind of being hidden in secrecy and kind of cryptic messages from kind of managers. But I feel bad for him in all this. It's just he's never been asked about himself. He's never been asked about what he really wants to do or bring. It's pretty much just been like Harry Kane news, other type of news with other outgoings and everything. You just got to kind of feel bad for the guy. Big up to you, though. Ian Ferguson's in the house as well. Morning, all. Been listening to Mozart's Requiem for a few minutes, but it's time to get on with it. Big up for the therapy sessions. Fellas, I was listening to that Ludovico Anandi more kind of one. That one really gets the tear jerkers going. Big up to you. Stevie Frazier's in the house, too. The board let us down again. No surprises. We're right to be angry, but still think we will have a good building season. It's going to be okay as long as the board actually use the money. If we're not done, kind of hearing a bit of a echo, Dave, I think, in the background. Um, Big up to you, Beyond 72. Hopefully you're keeping well. And then Catman Jess. Hey, Dave. I'm kind of hearing a bit of an echo.
yeah. I, I, I don't know what I can do.
Okay. I'll try to fix it. Well,
Give me 1 second.
sure, no. Here, I'm fixing it. I think I fixed it. Okay. Um, Moving on to the bit of the news here, everybody. Harry Kane to FC Bayern. Here we go. Completed deal between all parties as Kane has given the final green light. Tottenham to receive £100 million fixed fee plus add-ons up to £20 million package. Kane will sign a 4-year deal, flying to Germany today. Medical booked. Done deal. Has been confirmed. I think it also has been confirmed by Sky Sports in some way that Kane is expected to be flying today. At one stage, I think he was headed over to Stansted, and then he, didn't end up going over to Stansted or something like that. I'm not really too sure. I'm pretty sure, like, also though that Spurs kind of denied, the situation on that. But I don't know, Dave. Do you feel like there were any complications on the deal there? Do you feel like there was something that maybe was hindering it? Do you really care at all that maybe there was some sort of complication today?
Look, I believe the complication, Jack, was over, trying to get 80% of the fee sort of up front. But look, I think personally it was always going to be held back till after Ange Postecoglou's press conference to let Tottenham sort of be the first one to speak on it because the club were too coward to put out a statement. But look, Jack, the biggest thing is it's sad that, Tottenham and Harry Kane's 19-year association has come to an end. And I feel sick, I'm devastated, and I'll never forgive Ian Levy for this, which I'll explain later on. But also, Jack, we sort of knew that it was coming last night, right? Tottenham Club website, they already sort of took down the when you went into it, especially on the club shop, there was a picture of everybody with Harry Kane in the middle. I went into it late last night, it was gone, and it was replaced by Sonny. So we sort of knew that announcement was coming, Jacko. But Look, it is what it is, Jack. It's sad. It's sad.
No, it is very sad. Let's go on to the other bit of news here, and it's come from kind of Sky Sports News, kind of like what I was referencing earlier, that Harry Kane was actually having some complications with his flight. As well, Time Sports saying it is understood that Bayern accommodated one of Tottenham's wishes by agreeing to pay a large chunk of the fixed transfer fee up front, leaving Spurs with plenty of cash to spend during the remainder of the transfer window. And I know Dave has something to say on that in just a second, but there also has been kind of a confirmation of the deal if you really only trust one source, being Ali Gold. And he has said that Harry Kane is set to join Bayern Munich in a deal that's expected to be worth £100 million initially and potentially up to £120 million with add-ons. As for who will replace him on Sunday, Richarlison is expected to be fit to play. But Dave, I know you had something to say about sort of Time Sport and, this sort of kind of article that's come about that, what really there was actually more of a wish from Daniel Levy's side on sort of the finances, right? That he needed,
Mm.
a big fee of some kind, up front so that he could supposedly be able to work with, maybe for the remainder of this window. I'm not sure if you see it that way or maybe also just your initial response to kind of just that article.
Yeah, first of all, quickly, so Jacko, is the echo gone? I've plugged in the
Uh,
headphones.
I fixed it. Just I maybe you didn't hear me say that I fixed it. You didn't need the
Okay.
headphones, but I think I
Okay.
appreciate the extra work though, Dave. I appreciate it.
And sorry, it all got tangled up and everything. I was panicking, and everyone else out there, mic check, 1 2 1 2. Big D in the house. Let me know if you can hear me loud and proud. But look, Jacko, look, let's get on to my overall thoughts on this sort of section. Look, like I said, I've been here before with Carrick, Berbatov, Modric, and Bale. But my point that I made last night for me still remains. We built this stadium and diversified our revenue income so that we could compete with Europe's elite clubs and keep hold of our best players and use them, compete against them. I'm the point I'm sort of going to make is I get it's sort of 100 million, right? But the club don't need that sort of money. And for me, with your greatest ever player, that's why I wanted this club to take the gamble. With the bigger stadium, it allowed us to make more money from ticket sales on a match day, which basically, the protest is coming up against the United game about them from the Supporters Trust because they keep rising. And also, it was allow us to up the amount of season ticket holders that we could get into the stadium as well. So, I've done a bit of calculating, and we make about 1 million per year, sort of, or per game in food and beer alone. So you times that over 19, that's 19 million. But in general, Jack, through all the sort of revenue streams, through basically on a match day, Tottenham average around 3 million per match day. That's what they take in, including ticket sales, etc. Right? And so you times that by 19 home games just in the Premier League alone. That's 57 million a year just from Premier League home games. Then you have the stadium tours, the Skywalk, abseiling, Spurs Play, the merch store at the stadium and in Harlow, TV money, concerts, boxing, NFL, rugby, all of the revenue combined, and this was the latest figure in 2022, 523 million in terms of what we make a year in terms of all the diversified revenue streams that we have, and we still have go-karting to come. We have more diverse revenue streams than any other club across the world. So my point is, we did not need that kind of money to be able to rebuild this squad, and we should have took that gamble, in my opinion, because at some point you've got to stop selling your best players to the bigger clubs and learn to start competing with them. And for me, there would have been no better time to do it with your greatest ever player, Jack.
Yeah.
Also, we went on to sacrifice 3 transfer windows, right, under
Yeah.
Pochettino for that stadium rebuild where we could have used money to push on and get us over the line
That's
and
what I
win
was
that
going to touch
trophy.
on. I was going to
Uh,
just quickly
yeah.
interrupt you, Dave, and just, and bring up that point that you kind of made there that we didn't exactly invest as much, or pretty much at all, had, our own self embargo, I think is what the term was, right, during the time when we were trying to build the stadium. And Harry Kane wasn't given, as many resources or as many teammates around him during that time to really be able to push on for trophies. But then you sort of look at it later on, once Levy is sort of established after the pandemic, and once we kind of reach this kind of, I would say, post-pandemic era, at least of some sort, where kind of everything has started to return back
Mm.
to normal and people from around the world started going back to the stadium again. You would think that Levy could at least see some sort of, kind of a long-term projection of revenue, some
Yeah.
long-term projection of money coming in. Why does he need to wait many years for them to be for the money to be there already? Like, why can't he just take the risk, just bring in the players now, try to invest in the team, knowing that he does have all these diverse revenue streams
Mm,
that will pay him back in the long term, compared to other clubs who don't have those diverse revenue streams, who kind of do need to continue to dip into their own pocket in some way or another, or they
mm,
do rely on kit sales kind of heavily in a lot of ways.
mm,
Whereas Levy, you could think with all of his different revenue kind of streams, that would be a way to dip into the pocket in kind of less of a damaging way, I guess, to
mm,
your own finances. And it's not like we even care about Levy's finances, but that is probably how he thinks about it. He doesn't want to dip into his own
mm.
pocket. But you would think with all of these different revenue streams, he should think in the long term, it eventually will pay him back for what he might have to invest to keep Harry Kane happy and to at least help
Mm.
him challenge more for trophies, for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. And the club are hard, like they spend cash, but it takes them ages to spend it, and it's hard to get it out of them. And it's like, it's just financial greed from these owners, and I'm just pissed off with it, Jacko. You know, what was the point in moving from White Hart Lane? What was the point in suffering for them three transfer windows under Pochettino when we had one of our greatest teams ever? All it needed was a little bit more of cash injection that we could have really pushed on to maybe achieve something great. We were held back then, and now they're holding us back now. The only difference since they bought the club, is the stadium and the training complex. That's it. The infrastructure around the club. They haven't made any difference in terms of on the football pitch, especially over the last 4 years. And it's very quickly sliding backwards towards the club that they very first bought. And for me to do this out of a financial perspective has pissed me off.
Yeah,
To be brutally honest with you, there has to be some point you have to stand your ground and say to these clubs, no, we're here to compete now.
yeah, for sure.
It's what we were told all this stadium was about, right? It's why we accepted losing Modric, Bale, Carrick, Berbatov to help fund the
Hmm.
club, but also help buy up all the infrastructure around to be able to buy to be able to build a new stadium. It's what we've partnered with our best players for before. It's what we've gone through pain before, so that this moment would never arrive in
Yeah,
this stadium. But yet
yeah.
here we are, and I just feel like I've been lied to, and I'd much rather be back at the lane at this point.
Absolutely right, Dave. Just want to say hello to some members, and then we also have a super
Yeah,
chat from Moondog here. Catman Jess is in the house. Didn't say hello to you earlier, Catman. Good to
we
see you.
go.
He says, I'm going to miss Dave's Harry Kane hair report on the pre-match pump-ups.
I'll find
I
someone
mean,
new.
is it too soon to come up with a new one, Dave? Do you feel like you got to wait a little bit before you think of a new one? For a Harry Kane or a
Well,
new hair report or something like that? Or are you gonna take your time to think of a new player for that sort of thing?
no, look, I was sort of bordering on Pedro Porro, right? He's got a very tight haircut, Jack, all like that. So I
Very
was
tight.
maybe analysing it last night to maybe cheer myself up a little bit. Pedro Porro, I was thinking maybe getting Romero in there. I could definitely try and
He's
do one on
nice.
Madison. So look, I could go with Madison, Jack. Let's see if I become a Madison hair expert.
I think what's nice about Kane's though is that it sort of changed a lot, right? It had its receding moments, and then it had some moments where it made a real comeback. The receding hairline, and it had some good days, some bad days, and like that's what really made the report truly special was that there were some 7 out of 10s, there were some 10 out of 10s, on the Harry Kane report. But maybe we're gonna have to go for somebody with maybe more of a mixed day on the hair routine. Big up to Anthony as well, another member in the house. Amazing boys. Amazing show, boys. Chin up, though. The old saying is, the king is dead. Long live the king. In time, we will have a new hero. He is absolutely the King Kane, the King Big H. Big up to you. King Hoddle's in the house. Good to see you, King Hoddle, if I didn't say hello to you as well. Carl Higgins is in here. Good to see you, Carl Higgins. Tequila316 earlier was saying, Dave, and Jack, I'm not going to be happy clapping today. Yeah, no, don't blame you at all, Tequila316. And then a super chat here from Moondog, and he says, I am disgusted with the timing. No one comes out of this in a good light. Bayern, Spurs, or Kane, or even Postecoglou. Postecoglou's had to deal with kind of a whirlwind of different news. He's had to be the spokesperson for the club, and feels like the club just aren't really strong enough, or really just, how would you put it? Just they just don't have really the cojones, I guess, to really just stand up and really be, in any way, transparent about this. And I said this to you
Mm,
last night, Dave, that even if right decision, wrong decision to sell Harry Kane, if they even just made a decision and were pretty clear about it in the beginning of the summer, at least that shows
mm,
some type of,
yeah.
fortitude, or some type of, like a strong decision making and all of it. But Spurs kind of continue to sort of hide in this secrecy, this kind of murkiness with all of it. And that's what really is frustrating, Moondog, is to have this sort of outcome right before the start of the season doesn't paint anybody in a good light. And like you said there, and yeah, it's sad, really, the way that it's all transpired this way.
Jack, look,
Yeah.
this is what annoys me most about, we said weeks ago, that if this is going to happen and people inside the club maybe think it's going to happen or know it's going to happen, set the deadline and get it done early so that that multiple things. Ange Postecoglou can get his players in and be able to, get them to gel so he can pick his captain, you know what I mean? So that, other players have the opportunity before the season starts to step up without someone like Harry Kane there. And the whole thing has just been one big mess, and it's all come down to the money. And I get people are going to say, oh, well, it's only Bayern have offered it up now. But that's why Daniel Levy should have set the deadline and never let Harry Kane be the one to set the deadline. Daniel Levy should have took the onus on it and said, look, if this ain't done by the 31st of July, kiss good luck and go and get someone else. But he didn't do that. So he, it sort of put us in this position. And quite frankly, the guy has this tough negotiator sort of stance. That's in the mud. If quite frankly,
Yeah.
if someone was dubbing me as that, I'd be embarrassed that I caved in 2 days before the start of the season. It's just not good. It's an absolute joke, Jack. The time of this deal is a disgrace, and it just puts huge pressure on Ange Postecoglou, and that's what my main concern is, And you got to remember as well, you got the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust protest about rising ticket prices, yet they've gone and sold their best player but still rises tickets. If we do not win that United game, or it goes horribly wrong, like it did under Nuno, like it did last season when Conte was in charge, that place is going to be toxic. And that toxicity will have an effect on the players and Ange Postecoglou, despite how positive Ange Postecoglou is, and despite how much of a positive atmosphere there may be in the squad, the noise will have an effect. And if it's not good to watch or it goes horribly wrong, that noise will only rise and rise and rise. And yes, it will be towards the owners, but it'll have an effect on everybody else. So it's sort of like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Daniel Levy, he got in Postecoglou. Things seemed he managed to get everyone back on side, sort of positive again. And then the sign and stop, up the prices of the tickets, sell your best striker. And somehow he's managed to flip it again 180, heading right into the start of the season. This summer was always supposed to be about getting things done early, getting it done precisely and in the right way, and giving Ange time to work on it and head into the season fully prepared, knowing that other clubs' models are working and helping them compete up near the top, and we're trying to compete with billionaire ownerships, and teams that are owned by a whole nation's wealth. But yet somehow this season has been an even bigger disaster than I can remember, than a transfer window I can remember for quite some time. It was supposed to be about fixing your problems, getting your shit players out the door, keeping your best players, and improving the squad.
Exactly.
I'd argue, have we done that?
No, I think he's in some way, actually, Ange Postecoglou has had more distractions, more kind of going against him than even what I would say Conte did and what Jose did and previous managers did. It's actually really sad to see, because this is a manager a lot of us have really been united by in Ange Postecoglou. Good to see you, Moondog. Really do appreciate your support, man. And good to see you in the house. Graham is in here as well. Good to see you, Graham. Martin Nightbridge. Are you really asking Levy to act properly? Yeah, I probably am just sort of shooting in the dark here, Martin Nightbridge. Hopefully you're keeping well, though. Good to see you in the house, my man. Brandon Troller says, who's your top 3 of 4 signings for the rest of the season, Dave? I think we need a number 6 if we're going to be replacing Højbjerg. You have to think about that, Brandon, right? Because if we're also letting go a big leader in Højbjerg, we need to think of potentially a pretty big midfield signing that could either fill in for Basuma or in some way kind of fill in for the sort of kind of leadership void that would be left behind. But I think Højbjerg, I understand that Basuma is going to kind of be, I think, going to be the new leader of that midfield alongside Madison. But Højbjerg did have, and 2 things really. He had the availability where he was never injured. We could always rely on him being able to be picked. But he also sort of had that consistency in being able to at least deliver, at least in my opinion, and I know he's a very divisive player, but he was good at delivering those 7 out of 10s to more of a consistent level than maybe other players do. He wasn't as much, at least in my opinion, all over the place, and then would actually throw in some really good performances in some of the bigger games. But Højbjerg is also going to be, I think, a major loss in that he can sort of play in other positions. He can play as more of a box-to-box player. He can play as a number 6. I think he's actually a pretty valuable player for most teams. And Atletico are definitely, bringing in a good midfielder. I can see why people think in a similar way to Kane, why, maybe this is a good time to sell Højbjerg if you ever were to sell Højbjerg. But I don't know. I think it's just going to be another big loss that is going to be hard to replace. It might be a bit difficult to replace this late into the window. I'm looking at maybe more higher profile number 6s of some kind. I can't think of one right now that's on the market. I know we're linked with Douglas Luiz. Is he really the right option? I'm not sure yet. I think I would have to probably, watch back and maybe look at some of his stats a bit more. I feel like I've been all right with him when I've seen him, but I've not been blown away either when I've seen him before, Brandon. So I know we have been linked to that guy. I think other signings, of course, would be maybe in the forward department and needs to be maybe another creative winger of some kind. I actually approve of the Eze signing. I could see why some people think it might not fit the system. I just still think he is a devastating player, and he seems to be kind of bang in form right now, too, kind of like how Madison was coming off of a great last season. And then, too, I think we have to think about strikers that are going to be challenging Richie, because if Richarlison gets injured, if Richarlison isn't really hitting in the goals, we need somebody of some sort that we know is going to probably at least bang in 15 goals, because that, I think, is the bare minimum that we're going to need in order to really compete for more of the European places that we want and to give Ange a good season. So the Kolomoanis might be hard, I think, at this stage, so late in the window. Gift Orban, he looks like a really good player. It is a huge risk at the same time. So, lots to think about. It's a good question for later, actually, for a podcast, for sure, Brandon. Big up to you, my man.
Big up, Brandon. Look, Jack, I can use that and segue into the last part I wanted to talk about
Go
off
ahead.
this bit of the news. And, we'll end up having a bit of a discussion on this, Jack. Now, look, for me, I sort of think differently. I don't think we are going to use that money to go and sign players. And, I've sat there and I've thought about it. So just hear me out on this. Now, look, if the money is used, first of all, to bring in another centre-back and a striker of proven quality, ready to go straight into the first team, none of this player with potential crap. I don't want this Gift Orban crap hoping that he's going to replace Harry Kane. We have a chance, and most importantly, Ange Postecoglou has a chance of nullifying the impact of Kane's departure. However, when I look at the money we've spent this summer, Madison, 46 million euros, Porro, 40 million euros, Kulusevski, 30 million euros. Now, Jack, I know you have your thoughts on the Kulusevski one.
No need.
Vicario, 20 million euros, Van de Ven, 40 million euros, Valise, 15 million euros, Phillips, 2 million euros. That's a spend of 193 million euros. Now, Spurs usually average out at around 100 million euros per sort of transfer window, and we're already way over that. So, in that regard, I think some of that Kane money is to recoup some of what they've already spent. Do you want to come in on that before I go into also the squad?
It's a dangerous thought to think that a lot of this has already been spent, the Kane money that they knew they were going to eventually get. I just don't really. It just seems sort of. I don't know, Dave. It just seems sort of beyond thinking, because it just seems that out of, I don't know, just terrible for what we've been needing this summer. This summer, I think, required two major things. It required really three, actually. It required a major rebuild in terms of outgoings. We've yet to see really any outgoings. Hugo Lloris is still at this club going into Sunday. I think that is a crazy thing to think about, knowing that we've been trying to shift him off on a free. Maybe in that case, too, it's actually just been a lack of interest in Hugo. But that just shows from the mistakes in the past that we never really did end up shifting off these guys, sooner rather than later. And now that we've done it later, we're sort of paying the price for it. But also Spurs aren't really paying the price for it, right? They're not cutting off contracts. They're not really selling these guys for super low fees at all. Seems like they're still kind of negotiating and taking their time with it. And that's another thing that you don't understand, is that even if they did pay, even if they did make the mistake of not selling these guys sooner, they could still make up for it by just getting rid of them pretty much as quickly as possible for low fees, or rip up the contracts, make them play in the under 23s, do whatever it really takes to pressure them out of the club, because we know that they've been given far too many chances. Another thing is that we needed the creative midfield signing. I think we've done great with that with Madison. We needed the Solomon signing. We needed the Van de Ven signing. We needed others too. But feels like we're still kind of, not fully done. We still needed another center back. Most of us said at the beginning of this window, two center backs. Most of us also said maybe a fullback too of some sort, if in the case Ben Davies were to go, right? And we were left a bit up in the air of whether Sergio Reguilon can actually fill in at left back or whether he's actually going to go too. It just all feels like that there's still more to do this window. So I hope to think that Spurs are going to be spending it, because I think there's still a lot more to do this window. I'd be scared to think that, they think they're close to done in any way. I think they're probably 25% of the way there when you think about what they've needed to do this summer, not even thinking about replacing Harry Kane. I just think, some of the outgoings as well as some of the incomings that still need to happen.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And I couldn't agree more. And I'm going to go into the squad breakdown now. But basically, I do not see the club spending much more money than what they've already sort of spent already. Now, people say, oh, but Dave, we can fund money through squad sales. Okay, so let's go through that. So as it stands, I went and counted it this morning. We've got a squad of 32 senior players, 33 depending whether you count Parrott or not. So that includes 5 goalkeepers. Lloris, right? He still has to go. And one of Whiteman or Charlie or Brandon Austin have to go, right? But with Lloris, we're talking about letting them go for free. So there ain't any money coming in from sales of goalkeepers from, them from there. So let's go into the right back. You've got Emerson, Porro, Spence. Spence is the one on the list, apparently according to reports. But will we recoup what we paid for him? We paid 12.5 million with 7.5 million in performance-related add-ons. Now, we haven't paid that 7.5 million performance-related add-ons, but for a player that we bought and has not played, are we really gonna recoup what we paid, or even get close to around 10 million? I'm not quite so sure on that. Then you go into the left backs. You've got 4 of them. You've got Adoji, Reguilon, Davies, and Sessegnon. It looks like none of them are going anywhere. Can't do that with Sessegnon because he's injured. Davies, Reguilon, and Adoji, there's been no reports about any of them leaving. So you go into centre-backs. You've got Romero, Van der Ven, Sanchez, Tanganga, and Dyer. Sanchez, you're talking probably what was the fee to Spartak, Jack, around 7.5, I believe. The other 2 are set to stay. So you're probably talking about, 7, maybe 50, probably 15 to 20 million across the back line that you might be able to recoup towards maybe a player sell. Then you go in. Yeah, if you're lucky. Then you go into centre midfield. You got Madison, Basuma, Sarr, Højbjerg, White, Lo Celso, Ndombele, Bentancur, Skip, Højbjerg. Now, Ndombele looks set to leave. You're talking, you'd be lucky to get 10 million there. And then you might get, 30 for Højbjerg. So that's probably about 40 million. Wingers, Son, Kulu, Solomon, Perisic, Gale. Don't see any of them leaving whatsoever. And strikers, you've got Richarlison. So my point is, you're probably going to make about, if you sell Højbjerg, about 50 million in player sales. So that's only going to really fund one player. So you might get one in the door, but I don't think we're going to see this sudden knee-jerk spending that many fans are expecting to see, because we're already at 32. Yeah. We have to get it down to 25. With what you sell, we're already at that threshold.
No, I agree with that, because I had said at one stage that Spurs felt like they just overvalued. They just sort of feel like that they, had too high of estimates of the players, at the club. And I felt like that was the case with Winks. I felt like that was the case with Sanchez, the case with Dyer, a lot of players at the club. And I think you're absolutely right, Dave, that it could be the case that we only really do end up getting around 50 million. It was, sometimes said in the past when we had Jose and Conte that if we sold a lot of these players, we could get close to, 90 million, 100 million. I just never really felt that way. I think most people, outside of Tottenham Hotspur do not see, these guys at such a high level as maybe we do in the case of Dyer, Sanchez, Davies, etc. I even heard someone say the other day, these are not my words, but they said if you found Davies, Sanchez, and Dyer in a back 3 at QPR, you wouldn't really much blink your eye, or you wouldn't really much bat an eye at it. And you wouldn't really even think that that is such a stellar defense that that's going to get them out of the championship or anything like that. So I think that's what really shows the level that we're talking about when we come to player sales, Dave. And when we're only getting that much out of it, yes, it could afford us maybe one player, but it's not going to get us as many players or maybe as big of a fee as we would like, or as much of a treasure chest.
And the thing is, we need ready to go now players. That sort of money is only going to fund one, if even. So, we're leaving ourselves in a predicament. So, the club have it's like this. They're going to have to spend that Kane money, all of it, on a centre back and a striker to help Ange Postecoglou this season. If not,
Yeah,
I worry.
yeah. John Stokes earlier saying Harry Kane at the airport and finally set to fly to Munich together with his camp. Deal signed, no issues. Kane to Bayern. Have medical book for Kane and his 4-year contract is to be signed. Sebas Wolf is in here as well. He said, "What do you guys think is going through the players' head right now? Do you think they in any way had inklings of Kane leaving? Even just the fact that it's all up in the air, maybe this whole summer has probably been quite confusing, I think, to the players, Sebas. So I don't know. I think it does have an impact of some sort on them. There also can be guys that feel like that they can step in. There are those characters that want to step in and try to fill in that void that will be gone in either the leadership department, just also the goals department, right? And what he brings on the pitch in terms of output. I'm a little worried about some of the characters like an Eric Dyer and whatnot who are going to try to throw their head in there and try to all of a sudden become the new focal figures. But there is maybe a chance for Richarlison, Basuma, guys like that to step up and maybe take more of a leadership role. Of course, a lot of people I think Sonny might be named as the new captain, for the team too. It's up to Sonny now to kind of be that leadership role from the past, and be that, guy that has always been there, I think, alongside Kane, kind of carrying us in kind of the bad times as well as the good. So let's see what he can do. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, Sebas. I feel like a lot of the players probably have just been in the dark this whole summer. I would imagine. I'm not sure if even they were that clued in on, the talks even Postecoglou probably had, because I don't know why he would even need to share that with them, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think that I think they're in the dark. I feel
Yeah.
bad for them and all of it. I wonder though if he's, had a chance to say his goodbyes. Dave, do you think at some stage, do you think he probably had a chance to say goodbyes?
I don't know. I don't think so. How quickly the whole thing has unfolded, Jack, to be brutally honest. And that's
Hmm.
the sad thing about it. No proper goodbye with the fans. It's not the way it was supposed to be when we were supposed to be saying goodbye to Harry Kane. Sad, Jacko. It's very, very sad. Very sad, man.
And then a super chat here
Wasn't
from
supposed to be like this.
Big up to Sebas, my man. And a super chat here from SOF saying, Dave, I don't think you're understanding that Kane actually wanted the move. You see Ange's comments. Levy offered Kane contracts for the past few seasons. Spurs are out of Europe. Kane wants to win now. He is 30 years old.
Yeah, I get it. But I've said all along it was up to the club coming into this transfer window to go into it with the right ambition and get the stuff done they needed
To
to get
change his
done
mind.
to be able to convince Kane.
Yeah.
I've said that all along, and the club have clearly failed to do that, and Kane doesn't believe in the contract, and that's why he's out. Look, Ange Postecoglou done his job. From what I understand, Harry Kane really liked Ange Postecoglou. He liked the football. Thinks he's a very good manager and stuff like that. But it was always on the club to be able to convince the guy that, Kane said it at the end of last season. He wants to get back to some of the values, you know, that we had under Pochettino, and also get back to be in a position to go and to be able to win trophies. When he looks back and he still sees that same defence there, and all season long, or all pre-season long, they've still been conceding easy, soft goals. He was never going to be convinced of it. And that's why it falls back on the ownership, because when they didn't let him move to Man City 2 years ago, they had 2 years to put things right and get this right back on track and put Kane in a position to win silverware. He's always said his first priority was to try and win silverware at Tottenham. Now, don't get me wrong. He's had his opportunities and he's failed. But over the last 4 years, when the guy has just gone on and got better and better and better, everything else around him in terms of the club have fallen apart. It's all fallen down. And that's where my problem is. The club has had 2 years to get this right. People told me 2 years ago, Dave, cash in on Kane, sell him, sell him, sell him, sell him. We've needed Kane over the last 2 years. We didn't have him last year. Last season would have been even worse. And my point is that the club knew they had 2 years to get it right to stop this situation from arising, and they've got absolutely everything wrong in between. And they do not match the ambition of Harry Kane, but also the ambition of why Eriksen left, the ambition of why Modric left years ago. Bale, Berbatov, Carrick, I can go on. Van der Vaart, I can give you loads of names. I can go on with them. They all end up leaving our best players because the club is not matching their ambition. And I, for one, am fed up with it. I'm
I
fed up
might
with it.
be
I want to win things. I want to be successful. There's nothing that gives me more joy than being the best team in the land and being arrogant about it.
Yeah. I might be picking and choosing some of the news that, we've read this summer in terms of Kane and what he wanted and what he sort of was willing to accept. But the way I sort of remembered it was, or at least the way I wanted to think about it was, is that Kane did want to leave this club if he didn't see any ambition this summer, if he didn't see any major changes in the outgoings as well as some of the incomings to make it seem like Spurs were on the right track once again to winning trophies and, bringing some sort of silverware, because that's what he said in the past. And I think it is what he truly believed, that, but he's had more of a time limit now because he is 30 years old. He has to think about it more in the short term. And he felt probably like at the end of this summer and maybe throughout this summer, from some of the clues that he was getting, that there really wasn't going to be that ambition that he needed in order to stick around, in order to stay here at Spurs. But it's also the case that Spurs could well have convinced him. They could have tried to bring in enough players. They could have tried to shift off enough players. And they could have also tried to bring in some type of, at least convincing type, energy of ambition to try to be on the right pathway to win trophies. And I'm not sure if they've done that in any way to try to convince him. And I think he was probably capable of being convinced. And he did say he was willing to maybe sign a new contract well into the season. He wasn't going to be signing it straight away. And I think that's another thing too that, was sort of frustrating for us, is that this has kind of been a never ending saga, but it often is actually with big players. They usually do sort of run their contracts down to the very end at this sort of end of their career, at this sort of age as well. And it always was going to, I think, reach this sort of, kind of a big dramatic point. I just sort of wish that Spurs had done more on their end and maybe try to change his mind. Even if he was more leaning towards a Bayern, I still think him, as a Spurs fan and as a legend of this club, and as really, him as a, like I said, a real Spurs fan, would have probably been capable of being convinced in some sort of fashion. But I understand SOF that, at the end of the day, if we didn't get enough done to try to convince him that this was always going to happen, and we sort of do have to just think about how to best, limit the damage and move on from here.
And the last thing is I'm going to say on it is I'm sick of always, as a football fan, having to understand finances. I'm fed up with it. I've been, I would like to think I've been a bit more gracious than maybe others, where I've praised them where it's due and I've criticised them where it's due. But I'm actually at the point now, and I get finances is a massive part of football now, and you have to try and understand them. But it's been like this for years, and I'm just fed up with it. I just want a good footballing team on the pitch full of class players that can do what they're supposed to do every single weekend and go out and win games of football in a convincing manner. I'm just absolutely fed up of always having to understand the financial side of the game. I'm one of them. I'll understand it at times and I'll give you grace at times. But then I also expect you then to help the supporters at times, make things easier on the supporters at times, and at times give supporters, what they deserve as well. It should be a two-way street. I do not like the way ownerships in football are heading, where it's a one-way street and one-way street only, because they know there is only 1% in the world that can afford these football clubs, so they can more or less come in and do what they want. And that's what bugs me. We've understood finances. We've given them patience and time before. Now I want the football team I was promised they would deliver with this new stadium.
Big up to you, SOF, and thank you for the support as well, my friend.
Good
and also, a
Good
lot
comment.
of people in the chat thought you're absolutely spot on with it. So thank you, SOF, for supporting the channel as well as just putting that in there. Thank you, sir. Good to see you as well. We also have 373 watching, like Dave says. And I know Dave was just complaining about having to become an accountant for this football club, but he has done a lot of research, everybody. So smash the like button for him for having to become an accountant, at least in some sense, for this stream here, everybody. He's done the research, at least to try to do it. Maybe this is the last time, but it probably won't be. So smash the like button for Dave and what he's trying to do here with, just the preparation into it for what he's had to research. Paul Brown as well saying, just attempting to put a smile on your face, Dave, on this dark day. Life goes on. We loved Gaza and effed off to and he effed off to Lazio. Do you feel like maybe a lot of people felt that way with Gazzaniga? He is sort of that personality type that, was sort of everybody's favorite. I know a lot of Spurs fans to this day still feel like Gazzaniga is their favorite player. What do you think, Dave? Or sorry, Gascoigne. Yeah, Dave. Paul Gascoigne.
You're like me. You've got Gazzaniga on the mind, Jack.
Okay. I'm like KPB. I know KPB is a big Gaza fan, but yeah, Dave, but Gascoigne, and I guess he went to Rangers, right, as well. He went to a ton of clubs. I guess he traveled a bit, but I guess Lazio, when he went there, a lot of people still probably felt like you did, kind of watching the compilations. They turned on the sad music, the Beethoven music, and I don't know, seeing their favorite player go. It happens to a lot of Spurs fans.
No, look, the way it is, Jack, or the way it is, Paul, Look, you know, Mayola was good to see Gazagol, first of all. Absolutely good. Same as Huddle. It was like a dagger to the heart. But look, we're all full grown men, but we idolise these guys. Let's be real about it, and there's no shame in admitting it either. But look, no player is bigger than the football club at the end of the day. However, I do maintain that a huge player leaving a football club can impact it. Look at Leicester when they let Schmeichel go and Jamie Vardy stopped scoring. They got relegated. Despite many of our fans saying, why can't we act like Leicester? Why can't we buy that player? Why can't we buy this player that they've brought in? And because they failed to sort of replace them adequately, look what happened to them. So I do think there could be a bit of an impact with losing Harry Kane. But, again, it's up to the club how ambitious they are to go and get in the right players so that we don't feel that impact. But look, Jack, like I said, I've been here before. I wanted to do this stream today, get it over and done with, so I can wake up tomorrow,
Yeah.
new day, move forward. Like Ange says, we don't stop, and I'll find a new hero to worship, no
Yeah.
problem. But
Yeah.
for anyone that out there and going, oh, shut up, stop crying, it's done. Okay, great. But then just all I'd say to you guys is don't be so disrespectful to what this guy has done for this football club. He's carried it on his shoulders for the last 4 years. He's
Amen.
been top scorer in this club for the last 10 years. So I can still sit here and mourn the loss of him because I understand and I appreciate and respect what this guy has done for this football club.
Give the man one last vent. Give the man one last, just a monologue. Give the man one last, just testament to his feelings towards Harry Kane and the loss towards it. And then Dave has already put on the white sweatshirt. He's actually well ahead of me, I think, actually in the grieving process. And then it sounds like in some way he alluded to happy clapping maybe tomorrow, even before even Sunday. He's going to look like he's going to try to at least his best mood to get in the happy clapping mood for Ange. So he's actually doing a better job than even I am here.
Look, I got a new hero after Robbie Keane left, new hero after Berbatov, Carrick, Modric, Bale. I'll find a new one. Don't worry, there'll be another one that'll come along. Just how long will it take? I don't know. But look, come the start of the season, I'll be over it, ready to go. Big up, Paul, though. Legend.
Big up to you, Paul.
Absolute yeah, I put a smile on my face. It has worked.
Big up to Ollie Freeman. I'm seeing Ollie Freeman in the house in here as well. Derek Hutchinson. Good to see you, Derek Hutchinson. Hopefully you're keeping well, my friend. Good to see you, Johnny Wade, Stellars J, all of you beautiful faces. Do smash the like button for us. But I think we're going to get through some other kind of bits of news. Should we get on to the Ange quotes, Dave?
Yeah, let's start going through some of the Ange quotes, Jacko, and then, yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. So everybody, also too, it is, fake news, I guess, in some sort that Richarlison, was injured. It looks like he is fit to play. If that wasn't mentioned at some stage. So Richarlison might be the new hairline to be taken a look at. He does like to change the colors every now and again. Harry Kane quotes, though, from Postecoglou. And let me pull these up here. And he had plenty to say on this situation. It actually comes first sort of from Ali Gold. I'm just going to kind of rattle off a bunch of quotes and then kind of run them off to Dave here. The first one is that he said, I didn't see the point in pitching myself to Harry Kane because whatever I was going to say was going to be irrelevant. I could plan his grand vision, but I'm sure he's heard it all before. My feeling was we will get to know each other. That's the best way to navigate this early bit. Having said that, though, in my mind after that, in the initial conversations on that first day, he did make up his mind that if the clubs agreed, he would go, but he would also be happy to stay if they didn't end up making an agreement. I feel like that part he's a little spot on about, Dave, is that Harry Kane has probably heard a speech before from a manager about, his grand vision and how they're going to win trophies together. And as good of a speech as it could have been, and just sort of right, like it kind of like he's heard it before sort of thing. Like it, no matter how Oscar worthy, the convincing speech could have been, like, it probably needed to be more on the club end to actually convince him, not on Ange's side, actually.
Look, like I said all along, it was always going to be on the club side. Look, the club, the sad thing is, Jack, the club have made a lot of decisions in terms of managerial appointments to try and stop this day from happening, right? By bringing in Conte, Jose Mourinho, and people forget Ange Postecoglou's a winner. I get he helps rebuild teams to get to that stage, but the ultimate goal for this guy is not just to rebuild and qualify for Champions League. The ultimate for the Ange Postecoglou is to win. And for that to happen, it's a step up from Scottish League. It's a step up from from the Japanese league, he is going to need a step up of in quality in terms of players. And, people very quickly forget he had Furuhashi at Celtic, banging in 30 goals a season for him. He does need that clinical striker to finish off his moves for it to become effective. But, look, Ange Postecoglou would have known signing on the dotted line about this situation arising this year with a year left on his contract. For me, I get a lot of the quotes, but I actually don't think he said that and, amazing or anything out of this world. I think he's just clearly stated the obvious.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And then also some more quotes from him. He did say as
Just
well.
quickly,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, just quickly, Jacko, on that, if he says that, he spoke to Harry Kane way back then, and that was the outcome, that if the clubs were going to agree a deal, he'd go. Man, it's even more that Daniel Levy should have set a deadline himself.
Yes,
Even
absolutely.
more. Not let it rumble on to now.
We had a conversation with Mia, right, about that sort of deadline that needed to
Yeah.
be set by sort of Kane. It sounded like Kane, in a way, sort of set a deadline. I guess back then he just sort of said to Ange, and probably said to Daniel Levy even before that, listen, if an agreement is found on your end, I do want to go. But he also
Mm.
didn't want to really, like he put it, screw over the club, I guess, and kind of force his way out and, just, take the lowest fee, get me out of here as soon as possible. He did say if there wasn't really a fee that was agreed in any way, he would be happy to stay and he would be happy to push on with him. But I don't think there was anything that Postecoglou could have really done to try to convince him kind of by himself or on his own, which is a sad, case for him. You'd have to feel bad for Ange in that situation. And then he also went on to say, I don't think there's a like for like replacement for Harry. We've been planning for this for a while. To be fair, it doesn't take too much investigative work to know that this was going to happen. Our business up to now reflects that. I don't think it works that way, giving Levy a list. It's not like the family shopping list to go and get some milk and bread. My whole strategy has been that Harry was unlikely to be around, so it wasn't like we had a chat this morning about what to do. He also said that it's best that Harry speaks for himself on the decision, but there's no doubts he's one of the greats of this football club. His record speaks for himself. I'm only new in the building, but I'm certainly not the spokesman for this football club and declaring people's status. But I think it's clear Harry
Mm.
Kane is one of the greats of this club. At the same time, though, I think Ange Postecoglou has unfortunately been the spokesperson of this whole Harry Kane situation. He's given us the most clarity on this whole saga, Dave, and that's what's kind of frustrating, right? Is a guy that's just come into the club, barely even really knows Harry Kane, barely even knows Daniel Levy, even so far, and he's the one that's
Mm.
continuing to have to speak up for the club when it's really not even his decisions,
Yeah.
probably most of the time.
Do you know what, Jack? One thing I will say about Ange Postecoglou is how he has handled this is
So well,
absolutely impeccable. Um, what I will say is, if there's any sort of positive to take out of this, right? Ange Postecoglou is the sort of guy who will take this challenge head on. He understands that there is going to be a bit of a rebuild and what have you not. And he's here for that. Whereas if this happened under Jose or an Antonio Conte, they wouldn't stand for it. They just would not stand for it. So the fact that this guy has had to deal with a bloated squad all summer long because of our failures to get players out, which he would have identified in the interview process when interviewing for this job,
true.
that we've probably struggled to get some of the other players in. The fact that they knew this situation was going to arise and Madison and Solomon are their answer to the problem surprises me as well. I don't think I think Ange would have wanted more done, maybe especially in that striker area. That hasn't happened. So for me, Jack, I'm left baffled by it all. But what
Yeah.
I will say is, at least we've got a manager that wants to sink his teeth into the rebuild rather than shy away with it
He's handled himself so well, Dave. You're so right.
impeccably.
And also more quotes
He's
from
embraced it.
he's embraced it. He's gone about it in this cool, calm, collected manner, even if he's pissed off about it, even if he's annoyed, which he probably certainly is. Like he's definitely not shown it in a kind of a, how would you put it? Like a way that doesn't reflect well on him or the club. Like he's just gone about it in a very cool way. And just have to feel bad for him that he had to go about it. Like you think manager maybe has to do this in their second or third season, maybe some drama comes about, but to do it so soon into the job, you just feel bad for the guy. But then that's sort of part of it, right? That is part of the maybe the job title at Tottenham Hotspur is that it's not going to be easy, and you are going to have these situations. More kind of quotes though that have come from I believe Alistair Gold via Postecoglou, and he said that I think it's a bit, I think on trying to win things. He was asked on trying to win things for Harry Kane and maybe whether, he could have done better in some of his, opportunities to win things. Postecoglou said, I think that it's a bit unfair on Harry as well. They've got close a couple of times, but that's the reality of this business, that until you lift the trophy, that kind of thing is always sort of branded against you. That doesn't diminish his contribution. And I think it's only fair that on a day like today, that our supporters do have a sense of mourning, and less because of irrespective of the lack of success at the club. He has been a hero to them, and he will continue to be so a hero to them. Him going doesn't change my vision of what I'm trying to bring to this football club. It's obvious a club of this stature has to find a way to win things. I have a very specific way of trying to bring success, and that is playing the game a certain way. Lot that I really like about that, but maybe more towards the end. What I would say is what I find interesting is that he is mentioning about winning, though, Dave, is that, Postecoglou keeps getting praise for, this beautiful football and how much he's making Spurs fans feel better about the style of play. But I do appreciate in a lot of his interviews that he does mention results, and he mentions winning, and he mentions success. I think even more than I sometimes hear other Spurs fans do in kind of conversation about him, because while we do enjoy style of play, we are a club of this stature, like you said, a club of this magnitude, that we do also need to think about results as well. And I'm glad that he mentioned that.
For sure, Jack, and this is what I keep trying to remind people. Postecoglou ain't one of these little rebuild managers and off he thoughts. He's a winner. It's what he does. He wins. And that's what he wants to do. He ain't going to sit here and accept, okay, we've lost here and we've drawn there and this and that. He's a winner. That's it. And we've got to realise that. But another thing there, Jacko, where he talks about, this, you don't have to, it's a fallacy, this whole thing that you have to win a trophy to be remembered, this, that, and the other. This brings me on to one of my points, actually, Jack. And that's the press. That's been made up by the press. That Harry Kane has to leave to go and win a trophy to be remembered and talked about. Okay. Højbjerg's won the Bundesliga twice. Why don't you talk about him in that breath then? Alan Shearer is more remembered for his all-time goal-scoring record in the Premier League than he is at the title he won at Blackburn Rovers.
Correct.
Owen Hargreaves, they don't talk about him in the same breath as Lamps, Scholesy, or Gerrard, even though he's won the Bundesliga. So the whole thing has just been a complete bloody fallacy. The media dote over Alan Shearer so much they keep giving him jobs in the media because of his all-time record goal score. So this whole thing built up by the media is an absolute load of tripe. And I'm fed up with it. And that brings me on to them now as well. You've got what you wanted, the media. You've campaigned, you've printed stories, you've done everything you can to upset this football club to be able to get Harry Kane out of it. You've got your wish. You've won. Now, you're not. Just leave Tottenham Hotspur Football Club alone now. Leave us. Let's be quiet. Let's rebuild this football club. And don't you dare come for Ange Postecoglou. Don't you dare. Just leave us alone now. You've got what you wanted. Now leave us alone and F you.
Yeah, the whole media, from the English side to the German side, were just were just classless when it came to the Harry Kane saga. I actually think it even originally started on the English side, just from various conversations about, oh, Harry Kane deserves more. Harry Kane should think about trophies more. I think even Micah Richards went as far to say, how does he sleep at night? These sort of things. And it just reached a stage of just going way too far with Harry Kane and his sort of personal ambition and these sort of kind of accusations, especially considering that he's a better player than most of the pundits that he's even being, spoken about with. And I just feel like it's, like you say, Dave, they went way too far. Just leave us alone. Leave Ange out of your mouth as well. Let him do this rebuild. Let him work in peace, because Spurs have not been a club that have really been in peace or been out of the media spotlight. Part of that is due to them and the way that they tried to highlight this whole Harry Kane saga and sort of drum it up. But also part of that has to do with our own antics with Daniel Levy, as well as Paratici, and just all the other kind of crazy stuff that Spurs seem to get involved in too. That's for sure. Yeah.
But then you slowly start to see them then, though, Jacko, starting to sort of renege on it a bit yesterday, worrying about it. Yeah, because who are they going to pick next? That's why they don't have the great Harry Kane talk about. Plus, out of sight, out of mind, right? You know, they ain't gonna be able to sit there and adore and worship Harry Kane every single weekend, like we have been able to so far. You know, so he's just gonna be out of sight, out of mind now. They got what they wanted, and I hope it's to their detriment.
Jim, just a guy who loves Spurs. I love what you do, Dave. In Ange, we trust. Absolutely. And always in Ange, we trust. In the big Ange, we trust. In the mighty Ange, we trust. Always and forever. And I think you could say is that once the season gets going, always on this channel, have we really been known for, I would say, backing the manager pretty much to the hilt at times. Even Nuno, I think to a degree, we probably backed him a bit longer than others just because we felt like he too, despite maybe not being a great manager, was let down by similar issues, similar problems that other managers were let down by. So we were always getting behind the managers no matter what, even if they aren't our first choice. But I know even Dave was somebody that was kind of leaking Postecoglou's name, quite early, actually, when we were looking at maybe managers beyond Antonio Conte, whereas I'm kind of more of a late kind of comer or a late, follower of the Ange movement. And I'm waiting to happy clap 48 hours till I start happy clapping. Don't you worry, my friend.
Yeah, look, Jack, I was speaking to you about him behind the scenes, and I was saying to you, I think he's done a great job. When his name was mentioned, I said, look, I think he's done a great job at Celtic. The football he plays is unbelievable, and if he can replicate at Spurs, I think there's an opportunity. But with some of the other names on the list, I didn't think he'd end up getting the job. But he did. So I'm definitely in Ange we trust. But Jim, answering the call, my man, absolute legend. And that was basically saying to people, first of all, few gripes, hear me out. So, our like game is getting a little bit weak over here, and I'm not liking the slide on it. So, guys, you have the power. Smash that like button. Let's get that like game up. It's got to be strong. I can't tell you enough times. It has to be strong, that like game. So, make sure you hit it. But also, if you do enjoy the research, my thoughts that I spend hours putting down on paper, then go off and research teams to help expand on my points and everything else, and all the great work Jacko does doing that as well, plus putting up with me, plus helping out with a lot of the graphics and really sort of steering the ship until I get up to speed with a lot of the computer stuff because I'm absolutely technology shocking. So if you do, enjoy it and you want to support us, them channel memberships, by the way, quick shout out, quick call out, Fantasy Football League. Jack's
Yeah,
been
the
putting
deadline
up in the
too.
community section. Deadline is coming. Make sure you get on it. And if you're not on it, simply grab that €2 membership and get on it. There's a prize for the winner. But also, their memberships are a great way to help support the channel. So feel free to take up any of them options and support your boys.
Fill in those fantasy teams, even if you've already signed up, everybody. If you haven't actually picked your team, you got a deadline coming up. Don't leave the stream, but feel free to open up that browser and absolutely edit that team. I've already done so this morning. I even had to give myself a bit of a reminder. Big up to you, Paul G. He's come in here, and big up to you, Jim. Appreciate the support, my man. Paul G says, hope you're well, lads. Sad day, but we move forward. I think we've gotten onto that stage of the stream here, Paul, where we're kind of talking about Ange's quotes about, how the saga went down, how he's kind of maybe tried to best handle it. And we've reached that stage where I think now we're going to be having conversations about, what players they might be looking at, through Ange's quotes. And then also, I think we're going to be, towards the end of the stream, just have a few moments just to sort of recount some of our favorite things about the big H as well. But big up to you, Paul G. I think we are reaching that moving on stage. And like I said earlier,
Big
and
up,
Zoe
Paul.
pointed it out, Dave's wearing the white sweatshirt. He's ready to move on. New era. He's thinking bright. He's thinking, new future.
Look,
Love it.
I thought my word was going to end when Kane left. I thought my word was going to end when Lennon left. It didn't, So look, we move forward, Paul. We got to move forward. What can you do? The football club doesn't stand still for no one. And the great Graham Roberts always said, no name on the back of jersey is bigger than the football club.
And then also, too, here, everybody, we have some quotes. This has come from George Sessions. I think these are still good to look at. He said, this is from Postecoglou, of course, and he said, my understanding is it has not progressed to the point where it looks like it will happen. The information I have is the deal is imminent. You leave yourself some leeway, but moving forward in training today for Brentford, we are doing it without Harry Kane. Postecoglou also said, I don't think there's a like-for-like replacement for Harry Kane, but we've been planning for this. Fair to say, for a while now, it doesn't take too much investigative work to realize this will happen. So we've been planning for it anyways, amidst a lot of business. has been with this in mind. And he also said he's a hero to the supporters and will continue to be. Him going will not change my vision of what I'm trying to bring to this football club. So I think it's actually more of a repeat of actually what Ali Gold had to say. So just when I thought George Sessions had a lot of interesting quotes that he grabbed there, maybe he didn't. But Dave, any kind of final thoughts on maybe Postecoglou in the press conference itself? I mean, he even looked a bit annoyed in the beginning by the large turnout and everything. He sort of made a jab about that. Any kind of final, sort of thoughts here on the quotes, or shall we move on to just saying goodbye to our big H?
Yeah, look, we'll get on to move and say goodbye. Saying goodbye to the big H, but Ange Postecoglou has done an incredible job handling what he's done, and the fact that he hasn't cracked under the amount of pressure, every press conference, any sort of any opportunity he's got, he's been asked about the situation. The way he's handled himself is incredible. And like I said, maybe the only good thing to maybe come out of this is that you've got a manager who will embrace the change, and he's here for it compared to maybe other managers gone by. So let's see how he can do it, and maybe hopefully, because I do know with Ange Postecoglou, especially at Celtic, he used the outside noise about his appointment to galvanise everybody on the inside, and look what they went on to do. Maybe he could do the same with Tottenham. Let's wait and see.
Big up to the outlet as well. He's in the house. He's saying Levy got what he wants. He got the loads of shekels. Yeah, and I guess the debate is whether he's even going to spend those or if he hasn't already. Big up to you though, Mr. Harris. Hopefully you're keeping well this evening. Dave, the question that I sort of have on my mind is, it's not really first, because I think the cliche one is like, what's your favorite Harry Kane moment or goal or something? I think I kind of just want to start just by saying, what made you love Harry Kane as much as you did? What made him sort of your favorite player, really, of all time? And I think, it might be an obvious answer to you, but maybe it isn't to everybody.
Do you know what, Jack? It was just sort of, the fact that he came through as an academy product. I was pissed off with the likes of Adebayor and that up front. And it's just the way, he came through, he got his chance, and then he scored his first goal, I believe, for Tottenham against Shamrock Rovers, an Irish team. And from then, I just sort of thought, this guy has it. He knows how to score goals. I think we'll be seeing him for a long time. And my sort of prediction came true, Jack. And, I love a player that comes through our academy system, that sort of goes on to do what he's done. And ever since then, Jack, the guy has just turned into greatness. He's never, despite the noise that's been around him because of the level he's got himself to, despite the noise that's been around the club, despite the poor decisions from the owners above, despite the shit performances from the players around them, Jack, this guy has always given his all in the Tottenham Hotspur jersey. He's always, given us his very best. He's gone out and he's broke nearly all records available for England and Tottenham Hotspur. But most of all, no one predicted it. No one thought this guy's career would go to the heights it's gone to. And for that, for him to represent the jersey for the way I personally want it represented, the way I think a fan wants it represented, he has done that. And that's all you can ever ask from any player. And he's done that when there's so many others, especially over the last 3 to 4 years, have refused to do that or have not chosen to do that. And there's so many that are at the club today that cannot, that if they left, I could not say the same about them. So credit to Harry Kane. He's got every ounce out of himself and given every ounce to Tottenham. Blood, sweat and tears. And even when we've pissed him off, he could have left before, but he's remained loyal. He signed a 6-year contract when there was even future talks around him, about before he signed that 6-year contract. So for me, he's done exactly what I expect a player to do at this football club, Jack, and upheld that jersey with the utmost pride and respect.
For me, the feeling that I feel like I'm going to miss most about having Harry Kane in this team is, of course, like his ability, but it's actually more like, when you go into every game, it is kind of like going into battle, right, with the opposition. And you do sort of kind of measure up your chances of winning versus theirs. And you do look at your team versus the opposition team. And just knowing that you could always have Harry Kane in that lineup is sort of kind of just like, he's the best striker in the world. Like, you just didn't have to really think about it much more than that. And having a player like that we could always come up against, a Man United, a Chelsea, a Liverpool, whatever team it may have been, Champions League games too. That's what really made it special, I think, for me, was a lot of the Champions League games he had scored, because those were kind of some of my first times even watching Spurs play in the Champions League, Dave, right? Was seeing us playing those big games against Dortmund and whatnot as sort of an earlier, younger Spurs fan. So the way I see it is, when Harry Kane was doing that, felt like, it was a guy that was sort of battling for us. Of course, he was from our own academy and everything, and that made it extra special. But just sort of having a guy of that sort of ability, of that sort of class, and going into these high profile games that you just know you could lean on, and somebody that you sort of were proud of,
mm,
that you just knew was going to, get a good chance of getting you the win, of helping you win. And I know we have guys like Richarlison that we're going to get behind and whatnot, but I am going to
mm,
miss the feeling of having a world class
yeah,
striker that was one of our own, like Harry Kane, to always be able to pick from
mm,
in that lineup. And to be honest, too, when it was him and Sonny during some of those really dogged years, it was something special about that. Just knowing that even if our defense was
yeah,
terrible, even if we didn't have much of a chance, we just had two pretty much world class players up
mm,
top that could just kind of put the team on our back
mm,
and be able to drag us through games just out of nothing, make it a 4-5, like how many games did we win,
mm,
5-4 based off Kane and Son just sort of taking over at the end of games. And that's maybe what I'm going to miss, is just that
mm,
sort of, yeah, that the fact of just having a world class player like that up
yeah,
top of his ability. And also, he never had any controversies of any
mm,
kind, kept his name out of the spotlight, despite how much people tried to drag him into
mm,
it and everything, with all the sort of rumors and whatnot of him leaving. And it's always, I think, just been, a
mm,
pleasure and a privilege to have a guy that's just, as class as him, but also
mm,
just as imperious as him. Like, he's
mm,
just, he's the greatest striker of my
mm,
lifetime, I actually genuinely think. And the fact that he even played as long as he did for us is, yeah,
mm,
I'm just going to miss that feeling for me, Dave, personally.
yeah. Yeah, look, Jack, 100%. I have one more thing to say, and hopefully I can get through it without maybe shedding a tear or crying, because I'm getting to that point. But look, when it comes to Big H, Jacko, I mean, this guy has been a big part of my life for the last 10 years. Once on the weekend, once midweek, for 10 years solid. And he has given me a smile in nearly every single one of them games. And, you know, it's just sad, Jacko, that we're here at this point. 10 years, man. 10 years he's been a part of my life every single weekend,
It can be
banging
eerie.
in goals. It's just sad we're at this point. He's also given me
So,
great memories. Celebrating goals with all you guys out there that he scored. Being able
mhm.
to jump around with my father, rejoicing in Harry Kane's goals that, as grown men, we don't necessarily do. It'd be weird just to grab your father and start jumping up and down and stuff like that on any other ordinary sort of thing. And look, the guy has given me smiles when, quite frankly, in life I've had nothing really to smile about. So thank you, Harry Kane.
Yeah, beautifully said. And everybody, I think it is going to be a little eerie, to see him not in that team, Sunday. It's just going to be strange. That's kind of what I sort of was alluding
Mm,
to. I think it's just a feeling I'm not used to yet. It's just somebody that was proud to have us go into battle with was Harry Kane.
yeah,
I
sad.
think also too, even Sonny, right? I think Sonny probably felt that way right now. That was his partner. That was his man. That was the guy that he relied upon, to also be accountable when
Mm,
there were some real shit teams that we put out there, and they were the two that just
mm,
sort of held us up. And I think Sonny's going to feel probably as well a bit of that eerie absence, from a guy like that.
mm,
And I hope he's able to handle it well. I know Sonny can, but I even feel for him in this moment in time. I think he feels like a lot of
yeah,
Spurs fans, just missing your partner, missing your
yeah,
man, in that lineup. And yeah, thank you, Harry Kane. Exactly
sad.
right,
Yeah,
Phil P. Thank you, Harry Kane.
thank you, Harry Kane. And look, 280 goals, all types, left foot, right foot, headers, inside the box, outside the box. A guy who never let his standards fall despite the noise around him and the poor decisions at the top, and performances by others around him. Thank you, Harry Kane. Goodbye, my man.
The outlet has to say, I never saw Jimmy Greaves play for Spurs, but I can always say I saw Harry play in 40 years'
Mm,
time when I'm old. Thanks for all the goals, Harry, but I hope it doesn't work out. Bayern. Yeah, I think everybody agrees with that. Yeah, absolutely. I hope it goes
mm.
terribly at Bayern for him and
I
he ends up,
do. No
crawling back
Bratwurst.
over here.
No
Exactly.
Bratwurst, no Oktoberfest, no Lederhosen. And find someone to sing one of your own as well. I hope he fails at Bayern Munich, but thank you for what you've done at Tottenham.
Um, Everybody, do look out for some more content. We're gonna, I think, put out some season predictions later. I do believe we're gonna try to do some more content too, in case anything does
Hmm.
break. Of course, all the
Plenty to
match
come.
day festivities are going to be coming Sunday. Dave's going to be leading the pre-match build-up. The return of the pre-match build-up is going to be coming back. Also, the watch along, all that good business, everybody. So please, please do look out for us on Sunday. We will be doing all the watch along festivities, and to look out for our season predictions. We haven't been able to release them because we've been a bit busy ourselves, but also just the news and everything has just been all over the place that it's just almost
Yeah.
taken like priority over even these season predictions. It's a little crazy, and might have to be a bit of a buzzer beater, but do look out for that too, everybody, if you're looking for another
Yeah.
video. And also, everybody, smash the like button, leave a comment down below. Thank you to everybody that's also supported the channel, SOF. I know Jim has, and others as well in the chat. Thank you for throwing in your member
Yeah.
milestones also as well, everybody. I think you can tell we're able to put those up on screen now for you guys to be able to see. So keep throwing in those member milestones. We're keeping an eye on them. Big up to Zoe, Brandon Troller, Sebas Wolf, Paul Brown, Paul G, absolute legends, John Stokes, Mia. Good to see you as well, Kate. Thanks for tuning in. Really do appreciate all your supports. And Kuva99 grabbing a Flat Cat membership.
Wow.
Big up to you, Kuva.
Big up, Kuva. Good to see you, Kuva. Hopefully you're doing well. Sad day. Sad day. Look, it's a stream I never wanted to do. We got through it. Thank you, Harry. And we'll see you all back here later. We got plenty more content to come. Season predictions, predicted lineup, and we kick off the season. Yeah. Sad day, but we got through it.
See you,
We
everybody.
move. In the words of Ange, what is it? We don't stop. Come on, you Spurs. In Ange we trust.
48 hours till happy clapping, everybody. We'll be seeing you. Come on, you Spurs.
Let's go.